we have this massive change, and we're using these robotic systems, these things from science fiction, and they're starting to play out in battlefield reality. We've gone from 0 ground robots to 12,000 right now since the very start of the Iraq War. In the air, we've gone from a handful of drones to more than 7,000 in the U.S. military inventory. And it's this massive historic change, and yet I remember going to these conferences around DC, meeting with Pentagon people, and no one was saying, oh, and by the way, we're starting to use robots. It seemed a really big deal. We right now are utilizing robotics to fight our wars for you. Take the idea, the terminology going to war. Going to war has meant the same thing for over 5,000 years. It meant the same thing for the ancient Greeks going out to fight in the Trojan Wars to, for example, my grandfather going out to fight in World War II. Going to war meant that you were going to a place where there was such danger that you might never come home again. You might never see your family again. Now compare that experience that's held true for that period to that of a Predator drone pilot. I remember one of them talking about how his experience fighting insurgents in Iraq while never leaving Nevada. And he said, look, you're going to war for 12 hours. You're sitting behind a computer screen, you're shooting missiles at enemy targets, you're killing enemy combatants. And then at the end of the day, you get back in your car, and 20 minutes later, you're at the dinner table talking to your kids about their homework. So this age-old definition of going to war has changed in our lifetime. This is the future of war, is using more and more of these machines. And it's not something that is a Republican or a Democrat issue. The use of drones went from 0 to 7,000 during the Bush administration, on the ground 0 to 12,000, and it's continued during the Obama administration. And a very senior Pentagon advisor came up to me after one of these speeches and he said, I didn't know we were using this many of them. And I was like, how could you not know? You're helping to shape the decisions of how we use these robots. You don't even know how many we're using. But then he added this. He said, it's crazy. I bet one day we might even have a 3D version of the internet where the internet will look like a little video game and you'll be able to move around it in this way. And I looked at him and was like, what do you mean one day? You're talking about virtual worlds. You're talking about something like Second Life. And that's not one day. That's not even something that's new today. That's something that's been around for 5 years. And you don't even have to be tech savvy to know about it. It's in pop culture. If you've seen, CSI or the sitcom The Office, they talk about it. And yet you're talking about this thing, these virtual worlds, as something that might happen one day. And that is just a graphic illustration of the disconnect between where we are at with our technology and those that often make decisions that shape how that technology is utilized. I remember talking with a former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Ronald Reagan, and he said, I like these systems because they save lives, but I also worry about more marketization of war, more shock and awe talk to defray discussion of the costs, and that people are more likely to support the use of force if they view it as costless. We don't have a draft anymore. We don't declare war anymore. We don't buy war bonds anymore. And now we have this final trend that takes those who would be going into harm's way and all the political consequences of that and outsources it to digital technology. And so what we may be doing is taking some of those already lowering bars to war and dropping them to the ground. And we have a policy example of that that's playing out right now. For example, these drone strikes into Pakistan. In the last year and a half, we've carried out more than 50 of them. We've basically had the equivalent of the opening round of the Kosovo War in terms of the number of strikes that we're doing. Yet we don't talk about it. Imagine if it was man bombers, maybe we would talk about it, but it's not because it's costless to us.